so in the Monday Minute, we talked a lot about like for that single person who has the goal of being married someday or being in a committed relationship. And I think, very, very last second of the episode, bringing in the idea, like maybe that is
fine. Yeah, no, I like that
right.
Point. Yeah.
But I think like I'd love to cover a little bit of that of like why particularly does our society just throw on this pressure like it's not okay to be single without the goal of being in a relationship.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
I think that a good portion of that is just the expectations that we have in society at this point. I mean, things are changing some.
A little bit.
The average person moves out of their parents' home at 27 now, compared to 20 years ago, right? So things are changing, and there are people who are realizing, the nuclear family, women can work more, they have more freedom. Some people are deciding they don't want to have kids, they don't want to have, that they don't want to be tied down. And yet there is also just an innate drive, right? There is an innate drive to find another person to spend.
Yeah, part of our definition of life is to reproduce.
And so I think when people don't see that in someone else's life, part of it's the societal norms we've had for years. Part of it is also people sometimes just wonder if there's something wrong with you if you haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, which leads me into that next section of how anyone, regardless of whether or not we're single or in a relationship or whatever, how we talk about singleness is so full of like microaggressions.
Yes.
I don't think it's wrong to steal that term because it definitely feels like a microaggression. It's these intentions behind what we're saying that are actually fairly cruel.
Right. And I think there is something to be said for, look, if you have a significant problem in your life that you're not addressing, that's preventing you from having, like, okay, address that.
Yeah. Thing, right? Like if you have not left the house and you have not been on the internet in the past, 60 days, for sure you're not going to
Right. But that will cause problems in every arena of life. Anyways, it is also, a lot of it does come down to personality type. Some people really do need other people in their lives. Some people don't. And if that's a choice they're making, that's okay.
Yeah. And I think there's this almost like we step in too much sometimes and just assume in a conversation, David and I, David, have you been on any dates? As if I know that his goal is to be married and to be in a relationship, and therefore he must be making steps towards that. When I haven't even begun the conversation asking the questions about anything about him,
right?
Let alone his desires for the future or relationships. I think that we feel like we can bypass getting to know somebody to just give guidance on their lives and say well, have you been to this? Have you done this? And blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm innocent of this. I definitely still catch myself doing this. But I think that we should really take a moment and reflect on what we're saying and how it really comes across and what message we're communicating.
Well, one thing I tell clients, and I think we'd probably do well to keep it in mind in talking to other people, is it's better to compare yourself to who you were yesterday and to what you know your potential is than to compare yourself to others. Because there's something to be said about, yes, at 4 years old, your kid should be talking to someone else and have some social skills. Right. But, once you hit around age 20 and on, people's lives are so individualized, right? You really can't compare them very well.
Even Erickson in his stages of development, I think there's 3 past the age of 20.
Right.
Whereas there's 4 before 20.
So at a certain point, you have to compare it to, all right, is this person doing better than what they were yesterday? Am I living up to my potential? Is my potential geared towards living with another person? If it's not, what is it geared towards? And am I living up to that?
Yeah.
If I'm not living up to what I know I can do and what I want to do, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if I am living out the life that I am choosing, and if the areas in which I can continue to grow, I'm actively developing, Nothing more to be said.
And I think, this is something that I don't remember who I'm stealing it from, but I'm stealing it from somebody. Oftentimes when we see somebody who is single and they're in that place where they want relationship, they want companionship, they want family, and it just doesn't seem to be accessible for literally whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I think anybody who's in a place where they are building their own family, whether that's a married couple or a married couple with kids or a committed relationship, whatever it is, I think there's actually something really, really, really beautiful about honoring that time of singleness or just that state of singleness, whatever we want to call it, and inviting that person into our family and allowing them to benefit from additional family around them.
It's funny you say that, because something I was going to mention is the concept of found family.
Yeah.
Because I am a very social person. I mean, I went into the therapy field.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to me to have people around me who I can put my life into, as well as vice versa. So finding people like that, I mean, it can be a romantic relationship, but it can also be friends. It can also be extended family. It can be direct family. It can be many things. And I mean, I make a point of, if I'm invited to any social event, unless I'm so physically tired I can't, I will go, because it's important to me to foster that.
Yeah. When there was a story that I heard of, I think it was probably a pastor couple, and there was a single female that was friends with the couple, and that person just so longed for family and relationship. They were in a state different than their original family.
Right.
And so what this couple did was they would basically have an open door policy with this person of kind of growing enough relationship where she knew some of the family dynamics. And she would come over in pajamas and lay on the couch and watch TV with them after dinner, just because that's what you do with family. That's what you do in those intimate relationships. And so being able to invite somebody into that and allow them space to share in that with you, I think can be such an empowering and wonderful thing. Because essentially what you're saying is as you are, you're welcome.
Right. And
we have something that you long for that we can offer you a space. Here's the love seat. I don't care if you're in, sweats and a hoodie and just laying there eating popcorn. That's good, because that says so much about the care that we can have for each other. And there's something really beautiful about that idea. And obviously there's so many elements that have to go into that to make that healthy and appropriate. But even just the idea of how can in people like me who are in relationship building family genetically, how can we invite those who are not in those relationships that are intimate and sort of that messy, knowing kind of place, invite them in.
Well, and I think from a single perspective, sometimes people who are single need to develop thicker skin about that, because it's not always sympathy. Sometimes people just really care about you and want you invited in, right? And also, as someone who's single, you have to be able to reciprocate that and let people into your life in that way. And it's important to allow that to happen.
Yeah, just to be open to those relationships that may not look like what you're looking for, but are satisfying something or fulfilling a longing.
And it may take time to develop that.
Oh, it will, absolutely.
And also, again, if you're single, you probably have more time on your hands.
Yeah.
So maybe you aren't doing that every weekend with that married couple, right? But it's still there.
Yeah, that there are people who are welcoming you in and desiring to know you and get to know you and develop relationship. And I think, at the core of our longing against loneliness, it is for relationship and connection that goes beyond just, hey, how you doing? And so it's so important, regardless of, if we're pursuing that in a romantic relationship or a friendship relationship or mentor relationship, whatever it is, we still need connection.
Absolutely.
We thrive in connection. We die without it. And so allowing yourself to pursue relationship and recognize that there's a very, almost the same as your physiological hunger that you need to feed yourself to stay healthy. like we have that with relationship. And so if if I'm sitting there and I'm just longing for steak,
Right.
and I have cereal in front of me that I'm refusing to eat because it's not steak.
This might be your problem now.
then it definitely becomes my problem of like, well, okay, yes, steak would be better right now.
Right. I'll get there eventually, maybe, or maybe I'll just have some good cereal.
Yeah, but like I do need to do something about this. Yes. And so I think seeing those opportunities and recognizing that it's okay.
Yeah,
it
some
really
people
is.
really like cereal.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you, David. It was great being able to sit with you. And I hope that you have benefited from this conversation. I'd encourage you to keep exploring the Mayfield Collective.